Thank you for staying with us, and a warm welcome to those who've just joined us. Too many teachers don't care about their pupils or their jobs. That's the concern of the Foundation for Education and Social Justice Africa. It's been monitoring schools and discovered that many teachers aren't ensuring the safety and well-being of the children in their care. And because they don't love what they do, pupils' performance is affected. Let's discuss with the Foundation's Deputy Chairperson, Hendrick Makaneta. Thank you very much, Hendrick, for your time here on eNCA. So how did you conduct this particular research? Were you physically at the schools watching how the teachers behave, etc.?
Yes, definitely. We have observed through some of our representatives a number of schools, particularly in the Gauteng province, where the teachers are not able to take care of the learners. If you look at the duty of care, which is a fundamental principle in law, that says that in the absence of parents, teachers automatically become parents, and therefore, in line with this Latin term, the principle of in loco parentis, teachers have got a duty to look after the general well-being of all our learners. And currently, it is not happening in all the schools. There are many schools where this important duty is neglected.
And what do you think might be the reason behind teachers, as you say, not caring about their jobs, not caring about the oath that they took as teachers? What's contributing to this?
Well, Masego, if you look at the manner in which teachers are recruited, particularly these days, yes, teachers meet the requirements that are set by the South African Council of Educators. They are able to register because they meet all of those requirements. But the reality is that teaching on its own is a calling, and not many teachers, see it as a calling. Some of them might have registered for a postgraduate certificate in education simply because they want to escape the unemployment queue. If they don't get jobs in their fields, you find that some of the graduates were studying a BCom degree, as an example. And because they cannot find job, they do this one-year postgraduate certificate in education with a view to enter into the teaching fraternity in order to teach. They know that they will get a job, as soon as possible. So, the fact that they are not able to prepare in advance for their lessons, some of them, they just go into class unprepared. And so they are doing great injustice to the development of our learners in the terrain of education. If you also look at the manner in which the annual teaching plan, some of them are not even able to complete the annual teaching plan, which has got a wide range of topics that learners must cover within the 4 terms.
Was it all doom and gloom as you were at these different schools observing, or were there some teachers who cared?
Of course, there are dedicated teachers who really walk an extra mile in ensuring that they prepare thoroughly for their classrooms. And of course, those who also observe this duty of care in relation to safety. Because what we have observed is that there are those who believe that because the school gate is closed or locked, therefore that automatically means learners are safe. But in our view as the foundation, we want to say that the fact that the school gate is locked does not necessarily mean that all learners are safe. That is why learners have to be attended to at all times, in the classroom, but not only in the classroom, but also during breaks. Teacher visibility needs to be present with a view to make sure that learners are not exposed to dangerous substances such as drugs, which may find a way through the school fence into the schoolyard. So that is why we are now calling on government to make sure that they enforce this principle of in loco parentis, that is the duty of care, to make sure that every teacher is able to care for the general well-being of our learners, not only academically, but also in terms of extramural activities.
All right, and Mr. Makaneta, does this have anything at all to do with the research that was released earlier this year showing that, those in government positions, civil servants, for instance, a lot of them are retiring at the moment and a new cohort of teachers, nurses, etc. are coming into the system? Does that have anything to do with that and the fact that there's also those teachers who come in and they're quite young and the gap between themselves and maybe a grade 12 pupil, for instance, isn't that big?
Definitely, in some instances, that has to do with the age gap, which is very low between the current teachers and the learners as well. And that is why for some time, we've also called on teachers, especially, young teachers, to be very careful in relation to how they relate to these learners. The South African Council of Educators as well has been running a campaign to ensure that, they expose our teachers to what is it that they need to do in relation to, their conduct, but also to avoid misconduct, such as those teachers who find themselves dating, school learners and so on. And so we believe that the problem is huge, particularly in the public schools. If you check private schools, this is where the duty of care is enforced. And perhaps because the parents in the private schools are actively involved in the education of their children.
They're privileged, I think, Mr. Makaneta. It's privilege also involved in that. Because the parents that you're talking about in public schools, for instance, are working so hard to be able to take their children to school that they aren't getting the time to participate like the parents who have the money to be able to pay and not do a lot in terms of work. So it's also a privilege there. Wouldn't you agree?
Definitely. I think that privilege, that is why in this instance, for parents who find themselves in poor communities, we really want to call upon government, because all of them, not all of them can be able to, be actively involved in the education of their children because of a wide range of socio-economic factors. And therefore, government has got a duty to ensure that they stand or they support, these parents who are found in rural communities as well as in township schools, with a view that they are able to help the learners to create a future for themselves. So the biggest problem, again, that we've observed in terms of public schools is the absence of teachers in some of the schooling days. In addition to the school holidays that they take, every year or every term, they also become absent in one way or the other. And of course, I know that some of the issues, nothing much can be done because it's issues of sick notes and so on. But the general commitment of our teachers in the public education schools is a cause for concern. And as I said, not all of them, but we really need to find a way to up the game so that we can create a better, cohort of young leaders who will take forward.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's more of a balancing act because it's a societal issue that I agree with you on that point, that it's not only government that can do it alone. But thank you so much for your time here on eNCA. That was Hendrick Makaneta. He is from the Foundation for Education and Social Justice Africa. Of course, government has a lot to do in terms of the fact that teachers spend about 7 hours to 8 hours a day with pupils. And if they are not interested in their work, then it becomes even more difficult.